from hell?
I'd have to be pretty stupid to write a book about killing and then kill somebody the way I described it in my book. I'd be announcing myself as the killer. I'm not stupid.
The 90s were the last time Hollywood felt like a rebellious teenager. Studios took swings, directors took chances, and audiences walked into theaters expecting to be shocked, challenged, or completely blindsided. Looking back now, some of those films feel almost unreal. Not because they lacked quality, but because of the audacity behind them. They were too risky, too sharp, too willing to jab at cultural pressure points in ways modern studios wouldn't dare touch. So today, we're revisiting 10 films from the 90s that push boundaries to a place Hollywood simply wouldn't go now. And if you love exploring the strange corners of movie history, hit the like button so more people see this breakdown. Let's get started. Number 10, Natural Born Killers, 1994. Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers wasn't just controversial, it was radioactive. It arrived during a decade obsessed with tabloid news, shock TV, and moral panics. The movie attacked that media circus head-on, but in a way that felt like Stone had swallowed a bottle of caffeine pills before editing. The style is frantic, hypnotic, and just intentionally overwhelming. But the real firestorm erupted when several real-life criminals claimed the film inspired them. Things escalated when the family of shooting victim Patsy Byers sued Oliver Stone himself, arguing the film had directly motivated the killers. The case reached the Louisiana Court of Appeals and turned the movie into a national legal spectacle. Lawsuits were filed, families protested, and networks even refused to air interviews with Stone. In one surreal moment, Time magazine went as far as calling the film a contagion. The irony? Stone always said the film wasn't about violence. It was about how the media celebrates violence. That message aged well, but the execution was far too chaotic for today's studio system. No way a major platform touches a movie that courts this level of social backlash. Whatever line Hollywood had, this movie left it behind like debris. Number 9, The Basketball Diaries, 1995. The Basketball Diaries isn't just a coming-of-age story. It's a raw, unflinching look at the darker side of youth. Based on Jim Carroll's memoir, the film follows a promising high school basketball star whose life spirals out of control as he becomes addicted to heroin, gets involved in crime, and struggles with moral collapse. Leonardo DiCaprio delivers one of his most haunting performances, perfectly capturing both the charisma and the self-destruction of a teenager on the edge. When it premiered, the film sparked intense debate. Critics praised its realism, but many worried about how young audiences might interpret the graphic depictions of drug use, theft, and urban decay. Some theaters even added content warnings. And the film ignited conversations about whether Hollywood should show youth in such uncompromising gritty detail. What makes The Basketball Diaries almost impossible to make today is the lack of safety nets. There's no moralizing narrator, no comforting resolution, and no attempt to soften the consequences of the characters' choices. Modern studios would almost certainly sanitize the story, add layers of parental guidance, or frame it with a heavy-handed, lesson-learned ending. In the 90s, however, filmmakers could trust audiences to sit with discomfort, and that's exactly what the film demanded. Number 8, The People vs. Larry Flynt, 1996. Only the 90s could produce a prestige drama about the founder of Hustler magazine, and somehow turn him into a First Amendment martyr. Woody Harrelson's performance is electric, but the real controversy came from the fact that the movie dared to portray Larry Flynt as complicated rather than purely villainous. Religious groups protested outside theaters. Several Oscar voters refused to watch it. Harrelson received hate mail for months, and the film's marketing team struggled because they couldn't promote Flynt's story without showing imagery that would violate advertising standards. Even stranger, Flynt himself made public appearances to support the movie, often in his gold-plated wheelchair, flanked by bodyguards, turning every press conference into a media circus. In today's climate of hyper-politicized content and instant online outrage, a movie that openly defends one of America's most controversial publishers would never survive the pitch room. It's the kind of story only a pre-internet Hollywood could handle.
Oh no! 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 Oh no! No!
Number 7, American History X, 1998. Now, at number 7, we have American History X, the kind of film that made the studio nervous during production. Edward Norton delivered one of the most intense performances of the decade, but the movie's unfiltered look at neo-Nazism, racial hatred, and generational violence was almost too strong even in the 90s. The film sparked protests before it was even released. test screens left audiences shaken, and behind the scenes, director Tony Kaye publicly disowned the final cut, even going so far as to demand his name be removed from the movie, using biblical pseudonyms like Humpty Dumpty in his request. Kaye was so furious, he even bought full-page ads in Industry magazine denouncing the studio, a meltdown that became almost as infamous as the film itself. But what truly makes American History X unmakeable today is its raw honesty. There's no studio-approved messaging, no softened edges, no attempt to reassure audiences. It confronts extremist ideology without softening a single moment. No modern studio would willingly take on that responsibility. Number 6. Schindler's List, 1993. Now this is one of the most daring films Hollywood has ever made. Steven Spielberg tells the story of Oskar Schindler, a German businessman who used his factory to save over 1,000 Jews during the Holocaust. But the film doesn't sugarcoat anything. From the crowded, terrified streets of Krakow to the horrifyingly meticulous operations of the concentration camps, it confronts the audience with the full weight of history. What made it so controversial at the time wasn't just the violence, it was just how real it felt. Every death, every act of cruelty, every small act of courage hits like a punch to the gut. There's a famous scene of the girl in the red coat walking through the chaos, one small figure in a sea of horror, and it stops you in your tracks. These are real people, trapped in something unimaginable, living through it right in front of you. Audiences were stunned. Some left theaters shaken to the core. Critics debated whether mainstream audiences could even handle this level of intensity. And yet, the movie earned universal acclaim, sweeping awards while forcing a generation to confront one of the darkest chapters of history. Today, a studio might hesitate to greenlight a film this unflinching. Schindler's List trusts its audience to sit with discomfort, to bear witness, and to feel the moral weight of its story without holding their hands. That fearlessness, that willingness to tell a profoundly human story in all its complexity, is exactly why the film became unforgettable and why it could only have been made in a time willing to take such risks. If you're enjoying this trip through the 90s film vault, make sure you're subscribed. We've got more cult classics, misfires, and cinematic chaos coming up, and the next 5 movies only get more intense. Number 5. Showgirls, 1995. Showgirls treated the idea of good taste as optional and went all in on spectacle. Paul Verhoeven made a $45 million NC-17 musical drama about Las Vegas nightlife, and the industry reacted like someone had set off a fire alarm. Elizabeth Berkley's career took a nosedive after the film failed. Critics compared it to soft-core cinema, and MGM quietly distanced themselves from the release. But the surprising part is this. On home video, it became a monster. It earned over $100 million in rentals and became a staple of midnight screenings, drag reviews, and cult film festivals. Today's Hollywood would never fund a big-budget NC-17 film, especially one this provocative. The rating alone kills marketing. Streaming platforms won't touch it, and the cultural conversation around exploitation is way too charged. Showgirls was a disaster, then a cultural icon. Only the 90s could produce something that swings that wildly, which brings us to a film that sparked controversy before the cameras even rolled. Number 4. Basic Instinct, 1992. By the time Basic Instinct started shooting, the backlash was already waiting at the door. Protesters gathered around the set, objecting to the film's portrayal of bisexual women. And Verhoeven often found himself moving through clusters of people holding signs and shouting concerns about the stereotypes in the script. Then the movie released, and it became a global phenomenon. Sharon Stone's interrogation scene became one of the most talked about moments of the decade. Michael Douglas found himself in an unexpected media frenzy, and debates about censorship, sexuality, and representation hit every major news outlet in America. But what's often forgotten is that Basic Instinct was shockingly explicit for a mainstream blockbuster. Today's Hollywood barely makes erotic thrillers at all, let alone ones that provocative, this bold, and this controversial. It was a cultural earthquake. Now, studios won't even build houses on that fault line. Number 3. Crash, 1996. Crash is one of those movies where people argue about it without ever agreeing on what they just watched. Not because it's confusing, but because it makes you uncomfortable in a way that's hard to explain out loud. David Cronenberg doesn't shoot car crashes like action scenes. He shoots the aftermath, bent metal, surgical scars, the quiet moments where characters talk about accidents the way other people talk about relationships. There's a scene where a woman traces the line of a crash scar like it's something intimate. Another where the exact speed and angle of impact matters more than the person involved. That's what freaked people out. When the film released, tabloids went after it immediately. Politicians called it dangerous. The UK effectively blocked it from theaters for years. Even Cannes, which gave it a jury prize, couldn't agree on whether it should have been shown at all. Modern studios would demand context, messaging, reassurance. Crash offers none of that. It just leaves you sitting there trying to process why something feels wrong and why you kept watching anyway. Number 2. Fight Club, 1999. It's funny that Fight Club eventually became a poster in every college dorm, because when it released, studios treated it like a bomb they hoped wouldn't explode. Test screenings went terribly. Critics accused it of encouraging violence and nihilism. The studio tried to market it as a boxing movie because they didn't know what else to do. But the real controversy came after release, when police reports started documenting underground fight clubs popping up in real cities. Suddenly, the movie looked less like satire and more like a manual for disaffected young men. One executive later admitted, "If this pitch came across my desk today, it would be rejected before lunch." A movie that mocks consumerism, endorses chaos, and dismantles traditional masculinity? In today's climate, it would spark a multi-platform meltdown before filming ever began. Number 1. The Silence of the Lambs, 1991. Silence of the Lambs is one of the only thrillers in history to win all 5 major Oscars, but it also ignited fierce protests. It joined an elite club. Only 2 other films in history had ever pulled that off, which made the protests feel even louder because the movie wasn't just successful, it was suddenly important. LGBTQ+ activists condemned the portrayal of Buffalo Bill. Psychologists criticized its depiction of mental illness, and some groups argued the film reinforced dangerous stereotypes. And all of this happened while the movie was still in theaters. Despite the controversy, the film's legacy is undeniable. Hannibal Lecter became an icon, Clarice Starling became a template for future detectives, and the thriller genre permanently changed direction after its success. But imagine pitching this today, a blockbuster about cannibalism, serial killers, gender controversy, psychological trauma, and graphic violence, all packaged as a prestige awards contender. Studios today avoid this level of risk. Silence of the Lambs thrived because the 90s still let filmmakers make adults-only films without worrying about social media uproar. The 90s were loud, messy, fearless, and sometimes wildly irresponsible. But that's exactly why the decade produced movies we still talk about. These films challenged audiences, they started arguments, they definitely made some people uncomfortable, and in a strange way, they helped shape what cinema could be. Which of these movies do you think would cause the biggest uproar if it came out today? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy digging through the forgotten, controversial, and bizarre corners of film history, make sure you're subscribed. More deep dives and rediscovered gems coming up next. See you next time.